everyone. Now, I know that it's hard to keep up on top of what's going on in the Holy Land, but if you want to know more about what's happening here in Israel, I'm Aaron Porras, and this is the Weekly Review. The United States now blasting Qatari news outlet Al Jazeera for pitching the killing of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Now, the ICC is not obliged to take on every case, but anyone can file a complaint. And in this case, Al Jazeera is claiming to have detailed evidence allegedly proving that Israeli military forces deliberately shot Abu Akleh during clashes in Judea and Samaria with Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists in May.
There can be no reason now, we say, not to take the next step, which is to investigate, find the persons responsible, and charge them. There's no obstacle. Of course, the prosecutor would have to go to the judges to request those arrest warrants, but that's what needs to take place now.
Furthermore, Al Jazeera is claiming the death as part of a systematic campaign by Israel against Al Jazeera, including the bombing of Al Jazeera's offices in Gaza during a war with Hamas. Israel showing, however, that Hamas had stationed military equipment in the building and called on all Al Jazeera staff to evacuate before the strike. Then as for Abu Akleh, both Israel and the United States concluding their investigations into her death over the summer, saying that Israeli forces more than likely fired the killing shot, but that due to the Palestinian Authority's interference, conclusive results could not be inferred. For one, the Palestinian Authority immediately confiscated Abu Akleh's body from the field, removed the bullet, and withheld evidence from international investigators, which completely hampered proper ballistics probes and other examinations. In any case, even if responsible, Israel outright denying any intentional targeting of the journalist. Additionally, neither the U.S. nor Israel are members to the ICC, with the latter also questioning the court's jurisdiction. So Israeli authorities likewise repeating promises never to subject Israeli forces to the political whims of outsiders, even friendly nations like the United States. Prime Minister Lapid saying no one will investigate IDF soldiers and no one will preach to us about morals in warfare, especially not Al Jazeera.
הממשלה נותנת גיבוי מלא ללוחמים שלנו. אנחנו לא נאפשר חקירות של גורמים זרים, אנחנו לא נקבל הכפשות של חיילי צה"ל ולוחמי שב"כ ומג"ב שמסכנים את חייהם יום-יום כדי לשמור על מדינת ישראל ואזרחי ישראל. ידע כל לוחם, אם הוא שומר על החוק ועל הפקודות, תמיד יהיה לו גב רחב מאיתנו. אתם שומרים עלינו, אבל גם אנחנו שומרים עליכם.
And U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price saying that the Biden administration opposes the move as well, not least because, quote, the ICC should focus on its core mission, which is serving as a court of last resort in punishing and deterring atrocity crimes, end quote.
Arriving in the UAE from Bahrain, Herzog held talks with Emirati President Sheikh Mohammed Al Nahyan. Herzog told his host that there is broad support for the Abraham Accords in Israel and there is room for their expansion to include other Arab countries.
UAE is a major linchpin in the movement towards peace in the region. And I must say that the Abraham Accords are a national consensus in the State of Israel by all parties and all factions of Israeli politics. And after 2 years of the Abraham Accords, where we took off so beautifully, now we need to reach cruising altitude, meaning upgrade the relationship even further, strengthen them, and bring more nations on board of the Abraham Accords.
This was Herzog's second visit to the UAE in less than a year, and the king enthusiastically welcomed him back.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for coming back again to your second home. It's really meaning a lot to us. This is a new relationship that we are trying to build a very strong bridge between our both countries, and I think we have built a very strong bridge that we are both proud of, and the Abrahamic Accord is achieving its goal, so we are very proud.
The timing of Herzog's visit allowed him to take part in the Abu Dhabi space debate underway in the UAE capital. Herzog praised recent developments in space cooperation between Israel and the UAE.
We stand here on the brink of a revolutionary new era of space exploration. The heavens are now open to a dizzying array of public and private actors, launching satellites, sensors, and spacecraft into the great unknown.
President Herzog has now returned home with a view toward continuing his efforts to strengthen and even expand the Abraham Accords, making peace between Israel and the Arab states.
Yet another major blow dealt overnight to the violent Palestinian Islamic Jihad terror group, this time with the arrest of Al-Sadi amidst armed clashes in Jenin, and this as part of the ongoing anti-terror campaign dubbed Operation Breaking the Wave. Now, Al-Sadi is a senior member of the terror group in his own right, and he's also the son of senior Islamic Jihad official Bassem al-Sadi, whose arrest by Israel in August sparked heavy threats from the terror group's arm in Gaza, the group launching some 1,000 rockets at Israeli civilians over the course of a few days, and Israel responding with targeted airstrikes in the Strip entitled Operation Breaking Dawn. Further, the arrest of Yihya coming just a day after another rocket fired from Gaza into Israel, and a few days after commander in the Islamic Jihad's Jenin Brigade, Muhammad al-Sadi, was killed in armed clashes with the IDF in the city. Meantime, Operation Breaking the Wave also continuing elsewhere in Judea and Samaria, with one Palestinian militant killed, 6 others injured, and 14 arrested. All in all, serious damage is done in the past few months against the Islamic Jihad terror organization, and Operation Breaking the Wave reportedly preventing some 450 significant terror attacks this year.
זו מערכה נרחבת, נחושה, עם הרבה מאוד הישגים. מתחילת השנה סוכלו 445 פיגועים משמעותיים, מתוכם מעל 300 פיגועי ירי. מול התארגנויות הטרור אנחנו צריכים צבא חזק, ממושמע, עם שרשרת פיקוד ברורה, שפועל אך ורק על פי חוק. זה סוד כוחנו, זה מה שיצר את עוצמתו של צה"ל.
In a roundtable event hosted by Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff on Wednesday, the White House and Jewish American community leaders are set to discuss the startling rise in anti-Semitism across the United States and around the world. This as hate crimes and attacks on Jews rising to rarely before seen numbers in recent years. The ADL, for one, saying that last year saw the largest number of anti-Semitic incidents, including murder, physical assaults, harassment, and vandalism, since recording began 40 years ago. Similarly, the NYPD reporting a 125% increase in anti-Semitically motivated crimes over the past year, with some 45 reported crimes in New York City in November alone. By comparison, over the same time period, only 18 other incidents were recorded in New York City against all other target groups combined. Now, as for what the White House intends to do, to begin, the Biden administration calling on Americans not to give platform to lies, especially in the wake of comments made by the likes of Kanye West and neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. President Biden tweeting, quote, "I want to make a few things clear. The Holocaust happened, Hitler was a demonic figure, and instead of giving it a platform, our political leaders should be calling out and rejecting anti-Semitism wherever it hides. Silence is complicity."
And now moving on, the deadline for the formation of the coalition just days away. And though much progress has been made, Likud party leader Benjamin Netanyahu expected to ask the president for a brief extension. Joining us now with more on the latest in the coalition talks and more is Likud member of Knesset, Mai Golan. Mai, always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, this new coalition is shaping to be a very large coalition, dozens of ministers, each party making pretty big demands. I mean, what are your thoughts on this new coalition that seems to be taking shape?
Look, there's no perfect situation in this matter. Of course, I would wanted it to be slimmer and more efficient. But we're looking at what the people have chosen, and the people have chosen right-wing government. And we have the only sin in this government, I'm saying obviously sarcastically, is that we have very good people, and too many of them, and they're all right-wing, and they all want to put their opinion and their matter and their way of thinking. And this is the way that the political structure in Israel is built. So, you know, we saw last government with dozens of ministers and dozens of Norwegian, members of the Knesset that went in. I think that the number of Norwegian was the largest party in the Knesset last time. And it looked bad. It was very, very bad. But luckily, now this money won't go to people who really didn't know how to run the Knesset, but will go to people that will actually do something for the citizens of Israel. You know what? I'm proud. I'm very proud that we have such right-wing ideologists in the Knesset that care about what they promised to the people during this election. Because what they demand? They all demand a way of authority to really do something, not to just sit in their chairs and talk and talk. You know, my biggest fantasy is that we took, because I saw Gideon Sa'ar, really shtuyot, I say shtuyot in Hebrew, but really nonsense that he said today. It's unbelievable. unusual, really. But my biggest fantasy is that we will take his promises to the government on his platform that he made to the people as a fake right-wing member of the Knesset and implement them. Because if they take the things he promised to his people, he should be the proudest person of the government that is about to form right now. But he's a liar. He's a liar and he's a fraud. And this is the way he remained in politics, and this is the way he will only remain in the knowledge of the people of Israel, just like Naftali Bennett, by the way.
So, you mentioned this right-wing government. There's a few points I want to address. First of all, Avi Maoz. There was tremendous pushback from the Israeli public on his appointment. Do you think there was a miscalculation by Netanyahu here?
Absolutely not. I want to emphasize something, and this is a very important question that I'm glad I'm answering in English to the people of the world that will be watching, because there's so much delegitimation for what is really happening with Avi Maoz. First of all, let me emphasize, I would have 5,000 Avi Maoz in the Knesset instead of one Ofer Kasif. I will have 5,000 Avi Maoz instead of one Ayman Uda. Okay, let's emphasize that, because Avi Maoz is a person who cares about the state of Israel, wants to remain it safe and keep it safe and keep it Jewish and have it for the next generations to come. Not like the others that I mentioned that will literally want to destroy the state of Israel from within. Now for the next question, for the next part of the question. It's very important to realize what Avi Maoz has received in his job. He received the option to implement study programs that the principal of the school will be able to choose from within 3,000 programs that are chosen. Some of them, by the way, are pro-Palestinians and very against Zionism. So I'm glad and relaxed that Avi Maoz will have the ability to implement the Jewish character of our children and their education.
Okay, now it's no secret that this government that is taking shape is, one of the I think, the most right-wing government in Israel's history. What policies do you hope will be enacted by such a right-wing government? How do you see the future of the state of Israel? And what policies do you hope to enact in the coming Knesset?
Yeah, that's a very important question that I have so much to answer about, but I'll try to do it short. First of all, you know what? I'm so glad that compared again to the other people, the left wing and the fake right-wingers that ran on the other government, everything that they promised disappeared, completely disappeared. And not just disappeared, they always hid the people they were supposed to sit with. They sat with Ram, but they never said they will. They collaborated with the Muslims, but they never said they will. On the other hand, everything that we promised is very sheer, is very transparent. Everyone knows we're not hiding anything. And it's a fact that everything we said that we will do, and whoever we said that we will sit in this government is happening right now. So this is what is going to be, and the public is very well aware, and he voted in a majority in the democratic way. So first of all, the reform in the justice system, okay, I'll say it. These reforms are very, very important. We promised the public that, and it is the root to everything that needs to be fixed. When I want to promote, to take away illegal infiltrators from the state of Israel and to form a basic immigration policy that we lack in Israel, I have to ask permission from the Supreme Court judges. When I want to ruin a terrorist house, I have to ask the Supreme Court judges. When I want to build in my own land, I have to ask their permission. This is something that have to change. Okay, I want a very strong, independent Supreme Court, but it cannot be a dictatorship in a fake democracy. It cannot continue. We want to change the economic policies. And of course, the most important thing is personal safety. People have been feeling for the last 2 years that their safety is gone. They're afraid to go in the streets. They're afraid to go into some cities. They're scared to say something. They're thinking twice and 3 times sometimes. If they take their children on Saturdays to certain gardens, this cannot continue. We have to bring back safety to the citizens.
All right, Mai Golan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much.
Speaking to the Israeli-invested, left-leaning audience, the U.S. Secretary of State made clear that the Biden administration remains fully committed to a two-state solution.
We know that at this moment, the prospects of a two-state solution feel remote. And that may be an understatement to some. But we are committed to preserving a horizon of hope. That means holding firm to the values that have anchored the friendship between the United States and Israel across countless transitions in government in both of our countries. Israel recently held free and fair elections with robust participation, and a new government is expected to take office in the coming days. We fully respect the democratic choice of the Israeli people. We again congratulate Bibi Netanyahu.
Blinken was firm in the U.S. continued support for a nuclear deal with Iran that is strongly opposed by Prime Minister-designate Netanyahu.
In short, the JCPOA was working. And that's not just our view. That's the judgment of international inspectors, independent international inspectors, as well as the State Department at the time. After the last administration withdrew and embarked on its so-called maximum pressure campaign, Iran stopped complying with many of the agreement's critical constraints and expanded and accelerated its enrichment activities. So much so that by now, the breakout time has been shortened to just a few weeks.
Some in attendance have been sharply critical of Israel, even suggesting a boycott. Blinken made clear that the U.S. is strongly opposed to BDS.
Integrating Israel also means continuing to fight for Israel to be treated the same way as every other nation. No more, no less. While we fully respect the right of all to freedom of expression and actively defend and promote this around the world, we continue to reject the global boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement for unfairly singling out Israel.
Blinken's overall tone: there will be differences between the U.S. and Israel, but they will be differences between friends. We've all heard of the Iron Dome defense system used so successfully by the Israeli army against terrorist rocket fire from Gaza. The next generation of air defense is Iron Beam. Iron Beam is designed to be the first ever operational system for ground-based air defense against threats, including rockets, mortars, and UAVs. It can be used to counter incoming threats while defending critical infrastructure and population centers. Rafael has been working on the system for the past 3 decades. Lockheed says it intends to leverage decades of defense technology expertise to produce Iron Beam both efficiently and effectively. Lockheed Martin says it looks forward to entering the high-energy laser era with the highly effective systems developed by Rafael in Israel.
There is no alternative. If you want to stop a rogue nation from becoming a nuclear power, there is no alternative to a credible military option, the threat to use it, and the willingness to use and using it if the threat doesn't work. And I would couple that with crippling economic sanctions.
The Prime Minister-designate offered an opinion on how long it may take for Iran to have nuclear weapons.
Well, I think they're working to be close to a bomb, but they're not close to an arsenal of bombs. And they still have problems. They have, we can argue how long it is. I don't think it's days. I don't think it's months, but it's probably a couple of years.
Netanyahu expressed willingness to reconsider policy on arms for Ukraine.
On this issue, as well as any other issue that pertains to Ukraine, I'll meet and make a decision, and you can see that I'm being guarded and careful, and I'm fudging the answer.
Bibi said he had not spoken to former U.S. President Trump in quite some time, but condemns his meeting with anti-Semites.
No, I haven't talked to him at all for quite some time, but I can tell you this. I think it was ill-advised. I think it was a mistake. I said so. And I hope, he's probably smart enough, not probably, he is a very smart man. And he probably realizes that this is a problem, to say the least. It was ill-advised. It was wrong.
Were you or a baby you know born during the coronavirus pandemic? Well, fear not about your psyche, because a newly published Israeli study is now surprising psychologists in showing that babies' bonds with their parents, and particularly their mothers, unaffected by the outbreaks and the lockdowns. Initially, experts feared that the stress of the unstable environment and social upheaval would distract from and damage the bonding process. So when the pandemic reached Israel's shores in early 2020, researchers diverted a study that they had already begun to focus on this issue. By studying the interactions between 110 mothers and their babies both before and during the pandemic, the Ben-Gurion University scientists reporting that mother-infant emotional availability were not negatively impacted by the pandemic at all. In fact, the peer-reviewed study concluding that infants' development is far more sturdy than previously assumed. That said, given the small sample and the scope of the study, psychologist Dr. Noah Guerancela, who ran the study, acknowledging that the full picture of infants' emotional development was not captured and that this only suggests averages. Now it's time to pack your bags and head on over because despite the impressions gathered in the media, Israel is actually one of the safest countries in the world for visiting tourists. A recent study by a leading insurance comparison website finding that Israel is the 5th safest among the 50 most visited countries on Earth. In fact, Israel is safer than the United States, ranked 30th, Canada in 21st place, Australia in 18th, France at 15th, and England 10th. And the study is based on trusted international NGOs, including the World Health Organization, with data analyzed including all sorts of potential dangers from terrorism and carjackings to unintentional poisoning and traffic accidents. So overall, Israel's safety index was given a grade of A, with only Holland, Switzerland, Denmark, and Singapore receiving a higher mark of A+. The dubious distinction of the most dangerous of the 50 nations, meantime, going to South Africa by a wide margin.
As Christians around the world are looking forward to the holiday season, preparations are in full swing in Bethlehem to celebrate the holiday that lies at the heart of all Christian traditions. While grateful for the return of some foreign tourists and Christian Palestinians, numbers are still far from the 3.5 million visitors who came to Bethlehem in winter 2019, just before the start of the pandemic.
This year was the first year after COVID that we started receiving tourists from all over the world. We started receiving quite good numbers of tourists since March this year, and we expected the numbers to be more and more till the end of the year.
However, this year, many people gathered to see the giant tree on Manjar Square as it was lit up with hundreds of colored lights as red, white, and green fireworks illuminated the night sky, sending a message of unity.
رسالتنا في بلدية بيت لحم إلى أهالي المدينة وإلى العالم أجمع هي روح الميلاد تجمعنا. روح الميلاد تجمعنا أي تجمعنا على السلام، تجمعنا على العمل معا وسويا من أجل هذه المدينة ومن أجل الوطن ورفعة الوطن.
And that's it for ILTV's Weekly Review. I'm Aaron Porras. See you next week.